84% of adults in the UK have less than £1,000 in savings. How is that possible?
What in the broken Britain? You're not going to believe the size of a Mars bar in 1991? Bullshit is this?
Guys, it's Jay. So you want to know how to live for £280 per month? This is what I did.
Someone tell me what in the name of the cost of living crisis is going on in this country?
Someone tell me how a single person is supposed to survive in the UK.
Can someone tell me why I've just spent nearly 30 quid in Co-op on literally a bag full of shopping? Literally, from Co-op, a bag of food for maybe one night's tea, it's just cost me £29. Actually, hold on, I'll show you. £29.60. And let me show you what I did have. Microwave meal, spaghetti bolognese, some jacket potatoes, which cost £4. Admittedly, my own fault because I'm not in the mood and I can't be bothered to peel my own potatoes. Coleslaw, some breaded cod, some sweeties for the kids, the sweetie for the other child, some face wipes, not even branded, Vaseline, 2 tins of tuna, 2 pots of dog food, and a bag of french fries, which were £3.55. Like, hello, what the hell? So all of that there has just cost me £29.60. Like, what is going on with the world right now? Like...
Welcome to Blighty Blighted, your daily reminder that, like you saw from the thumbnail, the cost of living in Britain isn't merely rising anymore. It's bloody exploding, and I'm beginning to wonder whether there is actually an end in sight. Now, I know why you clicked on the thumbnail. Wink, wink. But let's not kid ourselves with any distractions. This cleavage, cost of living, is plunging ordinary people deeper and deeper into a financial crisis. And sometimes it feels as though we're stuck between 2 enormous eggs, with nowhere to bloody move. The joke is that the supermarket bill certainly doesn't leave much room for anything else. You walk through the doors thinking you'll spend 50 quid, and by the time you've picked up a few essentials, you're looking at the till thinking, have I bought the shopping or have I accidentally purchased the bloody supermarket? The trouble is that the increases don't seem to stop.
Less than £1,000 in savings. It blows my mind. And then there's about 12% that have less than £200 in savings. You've really then got to ask yourself, what situations and scenarios have you been through to be in that situation? But it's fine if you just go, is what it is. I own all of it. It's not my parents, it's not my wife who left me, it's not, I own it. I have been responsible for wherever I'm in life.
That's
now
really
I'm
empowering.
changing. And then you feel like freaking Superman. And you're like, bring it on. I've got 10 years left in the game. 10 years I'm going to absolutely dominate. I know that there's opportunity everywhere. Let's have it.
I think a wake-up call for how people spend their time is what's necessary, and understanding when you are having fair exchange, because if someone's dumping on you all the time, that is not serving you. It's all good to listen out and hear out a family member or a friend who's going through it, right? But as long as they'll be there for you. And whenever I see this happen, it's always the same people that get the dump on. It's always the same people that are shoulders to cry on, and it's never reciprocal.
Do you live on your own? No, I don't. I live at home still with my parents. I would love my own place, but just being able to afford it, and certain landlords like you to earn a certain amount or a year, or you get what I mean? If that's how it works, I don't know. Plus, you got to have money for like the deposit and that as well, which is very expensive as well. Plus, where I live, in like areas I've looked for one bed, like a flat, and a studio apartment, like a flat, it's so expensive for one bed. Ridiculous. Because I would love my own space. As you can see, my bedroom is quite like small. I've got much space. I'm quite small, and that is ridiculous. But I would like this year. I would love to like save up for a deposit if I can. That's the goal.
Now, you know, people talk about shrinkflation, and that's where a company makes something smaller so they can still squeeze the profit out of it because prices have gone up on things like sugar and cocoa. Well, it's real. Check this out. 1991, a Mars bar cost 25 pence. Today, 2026, they cost £1.10. Look at the size of a Mars bar in 1991. Ready? Look at the size of that. It's as big as her hand. I mean, that was literally the size of her hand. It looked like a brick. Can you remember eating one of them? I remember it filling you up for the whole day. Not anymore. It's just a mere snack.
Because I've just been food shopping. Nothing high end. Went to Aldi. Love a bit of Aldi. But please tell me why I've come out and felt like I've had my pants pulled right down, because I feel violated at the cost of my food shop. That's literally going to last me a week. 1 week. There's 5 of us, right? Technically, there's 4.5 because I've had a gastric band and my 7-year-old can eat more than I can. But why? Why are we paying things like, I don't know, £5 for a packet of sanitary towels? They're not even reusable. In the name of Gemma Collins? Nah. This ain't for me. Not for me.
Right now, because the numbers just don't add up. Everyone keeps saying it's cheaper to be single, live on your own. That's not the case. If you're not a couple, you have to pay all of that on your own. So let's talk about rent. So you're talking 650 to 1,200, depending on where you live. These are averages, okay? Then you've also got to think about your council tax, another 180, 120, depending on where you are again. Then that's before you've got food, before you've got utilities, before you're paying your TV licence, everything. You are paying 100% of all of that. Before you've even started living, you're looking at 1,200 to 1,600 per month. Again, these are averages, not necessarily accurate depending on the area that you live in. I think the thing that gets me is people just say, well, go and get a better job, go and get a higher paid job, go and learn a skill. Yeah, you can do all of that, but we shouldn't have to. At the end of the day, if you're working full time, if you're doing a 35-hour plus a week, you shouldn't need to go and get a second job. You shouldn't need to have a side hustle, but people are, and that's the only way they're getting by. Or they're using credit because they just doesn't add up. The cost of living versus the average salary or the minimum wage salary in the UK, it doesn't match. No matter what, you're always going to be worse off. Now, these aren't luxuries. These are the basics that you're paying for. Your car insurance, you're paying for your gas, your electric, all of that. And then you're working for nothing. It's not living, it's surviving. You are living to work, and that's not right.
Everyone keeps asking, so I'm going to run you through it now. I went out, I looked around and I saw American RVs. Now you can pick up an American RV anywhere between 30 and 50,000. I know it sounds a lot, well, bear with me. You can get finance on that as a car, you can get loans on it, so you can do that. But what I did is I looked around and I found that, well, there's got to be some old people out there that aren't driving anymore. I'm a bit older, managed to find one. He couldn't drive anymore because of his eyes, everything else. It sounds a bit nasty, but it's life and it's business, and I knocked him down. I got it for 14,000. I'd spent 4,000 on it, so that's 19,000, 18,000 whatever it is, that he owes me. But I've got full central heating, I've got full running water once I fill the tanks up. My toilet is exactly the same as a normal home toilet, you just flush it out. Any drain, anywhere else, anywhere you want to go. 280 works out that my gas, which is LPG, I fill that up probably once every 2.5, 3 weeks, that's £80. And I've got my fuel, fuel is probably about £80 if I'm driving around, and my MOT and everything is done. My tax is like £14 a month, it's including my food and everything else. My gas runs all the central heating and my fridge. It's a fucking awesome life. I can literally push the button, I bring the size in, so all the sizes done in. I can bring the size in and I'm literally ready to go. I swear to God, I could be driving and moving within under 10 minutes. And that's not a rush, that's anything else. You can park wherever you want because it's 7.5 tonne. And you can park anywhere as long as it's legal. That's the main thing, as long as it's legal. Now, I'm in a lay-by at the moment, forest bits around me and stuff like that. There's some of the people that know me. I'm doing that at the moment because I've got property nearby that I'm helping out and doing, finishing off. Once that's done, I can just go where I want, really, to be honest with you. I can go onto nice parks, I can basically go anywhere, and that's the freedom of it. The only pain in the arse, the cons of it all, is I have to fill up my water every week, which, to be honest with you, I drive to Asda, put the pipe in, fill up the water, drive off. That's it, simple as. The gas, I don't fill it at the petrol station anyway, so I'll fill up and then I do my LPG, which works out about 150 quid or so, kind of doing it all. That's it basically. Any questions, shout me, message me, not a problem, so just let me know. For anything else you can think of, but as I say, if I haven't come to something, let me know and I'll happily go through it with you. Cheers guys, take care, Jay.
The cost of living in the UK is so cooked. I just ordered Uber Eats 2 burgers for me and my little sister. It was £45 for 2 burger meals. The biggest thing that I realised though, the UK, everyone has such a scarcity mindset. Whilst that is an outrageous price to pay for something like that, when I just think about the conditioning of me growing up in the UK, like, oh, you shouldn't buy expensive things, you shouldn't buy these things, I have to snap myself out of it, because if you're an entrepreneur, if you're in commission sales, if you're making money online, how can I sit there and be like, oh, I just spent £45 on food, that's too much money? What kind of signal does that send out about the kind of person I am and the money I'm going to make in the future? If I sit there and I'm like, I can't believe I spent £45, like, the cost of living is cooked. But if I just use it as motivation to be like, okay, I'm just going to go make more money, I want to go buy more expensive things so I can make more money. If you detach yourself from the money itself and start thinking more abundantly, like, how can I make more? How can I move out of the country? How can I move out of the UK and have a better quality of life where the prices might be higher, but I'm enjoying myself more? When you start thinking in that frame, then the little money that we spend here doesn't matter. The UK has a brokey mindset, and even like me as an entrepreneur, I get affected by it sometimes. But you have to talk to yourself like, no, snap out of it, just focus on making more money, doing more good, go and win. We need more of that like progressive and like American mindset, like flipping out, think abundantly, Allah can do anything.
Imagine a country where everything was how it was supposed to be, where every city and town had its own 24/7 gym that was publicly funded, where you could go to even if you had children because it had a creche, where you could focus on your physical health and your mental health, and where being a mum or a parent or caregiver doesn't stop you from bettering yourself. Imagine a country where your GP centre was open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week, where you could go to, instead of having to walk into A&E and then wait 12 hours and smothering A&E with minor issues. Imagine going to said GP and being able to be referred to a homeopath, an osteopath, a chiropractor, a proper mental health physician. All these caregivers under one roof, not competing with each other, but genuinely just wanting to make you better. Imagine every community having free health classes, free exercise classes for older people, walking groups, you know, healthy cooking workshops even. There's so many people that don't know how to cook properly, breastfeeding support, new parent support, grief support, community gardens, youth clubs. We need proper youth clubs. Imagine a community with proper youth clubs and safe places where people can connect instead of just becoming isolated. Imagine if every child, regardless of their family's income, had quick access to speech and language therapy or occupational therapy or physiotherapy and the support that they needed without having to wait on average of 2 years for the most important stages of their development. Imagine if children and adults with additional special needs had access to sensory facilities and respite services available for parents and caregivers when they actually needed them and not long past the breaking point. Imagine if unpaid carers were actually looked after, because looking after someone shouldn't compromise your mental and your physical health. Imagine a world like this. Imagine a country like this where we actually put people first, where everything that our tax is supposed to fund actually funds. Imagine a completely restored NHS system that does thrive on keeping people healthy. That includes dental care, mental health, physical health, neonatal care, pregnancy, grief support, absolutely everything that the body needs in order to survive and thrive, where you have all these people who want to help people working together, homeopaths with allopathic medicine and osteopaths and even massage therapists as part of the NHS. Just imagine that world. Imagine where people who don't have the funds to go to the gym can go to the gym, but it's open 24/7 and if you're a caregiver, if you need a child, that's okay, because there's a creche there that's fully funded also. If you want to do better for your children but you don't know how, that's okay, there's cooking classes, there's parenting classes. Just imagine. And now some people will say that's just not doable because the UK doesn't have that money. Here's just 10 examples in the last 6 years alone where the UK has had that money and chosen not to spend it on reforming, restoring or revitalising the UK and its people. So I'm going to read this from my notes because I don't want to get trolled. I don't want people to go, well, that figure's not right. These figures are from the government's own websites or parliament websites. Okay, guys? So this is just 10 examples that I found in 30 seconds. HS2, £43.6 billion already spent. So by the end of February 2026, 43.6 billion had already been spent on HS2. The latest expected cost of completing the reduced railway is now between 87.7 billion and 102 billion, despite large sections of the original project being cancelled. Just so you know how much 43.6 billion is. If you spent £1 million a minute, it would take 30 days, 6 hours and 40 minutes to spend that much money. The NHS test and trace 13.5 billion in one financial year alone. Test and trace spent 13.5 billion in 2020 to 2021. Only around 900 million pound of that was actually recorded as direct tracing expenditure. COVID fraud and error, approximately 10.9 billion pound lost. An independent government report concluded that taxpayers lost approximately £10.9 billion through fraud and error in the pandemic support schemes. Asylum hotels, £3.1 billion in 1 year. The Home Office expects to spend £3.1 billion on asylum hotels during the financial year ending March 2024. At the peak, hotels were reportedly costing taxpayers around £9 million every day. Excess and unusable PPE, at least 1.819 billion British pounds. The government accounts included a £1.5 billion write-down specifically relating to PPE, while estimated future storage, so the storage and disposal costs for the excess and unusable PPE, were another £319 million. The Rwanda scheme. The government later described the abandoned Rwanda policy as having cost approximately £700 million, with only 4 people going to Rwanda voluntarily rather than through the planned compulsory relocation programme. Restoring the Palace of Westminster. Between 2020 and 2021 and 2024 and 2025, £470 million British pounds was spent on the restoration and renewal programme for Parliament before the main restoration had even begun. Parliament also continues to spend around £1.5 million every week maintaining and repairing that building. But there's more. The Buckingham Palace renovations. The taxpayer-funded Buckingham Palace resurfacing programme was allocated a whopping £369 million to replace plumbing, wiring, heating and other infrastructure. The Platinum Jubilee. Do you guys remember that? The 2021 budget allocated £28 million of government funding towards the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. That price does not include every cost incurred by councils, police forces or other public bodies. And lastly, but definitely not least, the delayed health security laboratory project, £400 million already spent. The government has spent around £400 million on its proposed National Health Security Campus, even though no final decision has yet been made on the location. Its estimated cost rose from £530 million to £3.2 billion, and its earliest expected completion slipped to 2036, 15 years later than initially planned. Just those 10 examples alone add up to £74.9 billion of taxpayers' money, and this is a deliberately conservative total because it uses £43.6 billion spent on HS2 rather than its potential final cost of up to £102.7 billion. But I've done it conservatively so that fact checkers come for me. So yeah, they can do it. They can find money when they want to find money. They just choose not to. And then obviously there's the money buried deeper beneath phrases like commercial confidentiality or emergency procurement and contract variation. There's so many more examples. Who wants to hear more?
Back in the 1990s, a salary of £70,000 was a lottery win number. It bought a detached house with a gravel drive, 2 cars parked in front of it, and private school fees paid without a second glance. £70,000 meant you had arrived. Now, in 2026, that same £70,000 is the salary that makes you pause at the checkout in Waitrose, quietly deciding whether the nice olive oil is really worth it this week. So what happened? How did the elite quietly become the new just getting by? How did a number that once signaled genuine wealth become a salary that leaves you feeling, somehow, remarkably poor? Sit tight, because the answer is one of the most important stories in modern British money, and almost nobody is telling it honestly. Let's start where the illusion begins. The headline figure, £70,000. On paper, it puts you comfortably in the top 15% of all UK taxpayers. By every statistical measure HMRC uses, you are a high earner. You are officially wealthy. But here is the problem. The system that decides who counts as rich hasn't updated its definition of wealth in over a decade. The thresholds were drawn up years ago and then frozen in place, while the price of everything around you has quietly marched upward. Economists have a polite name for this. They call it fiscal drag. The higher rate tax threshold is frozen at £50,270. It hasn't moved. And because it hasn't moved, nearly £20,000 of your £70,000 salary is now taxed at the full 40% rate. You didn't get richer. The finish line simply moved toward you. Then it swallowed you. Think of it like this. Earning £70,000 is like being handed a pass to drive on a premium highway. From the outside, it looks fast. It looks smooth. Everyone assumes you're flying. But this particular road has a catch. Every 5 miles, there's a toll booth, and every one of them is completely transparent. You never see them coming. You just feel your speed bleeding away. 40% tax here, national insurance there, a Plan 2 student loan repayment, skimming another slice off the top. You're driving a genuinely fast car, the engine is powerful, but by the time you reach the end of the month, every transparent toll has quietly sucked away your momentum, and you coast into payday with no fuel left in the tank. That's the gross versus net illusion. The car is fast, the journey is exhausting, and you arrive with nothing. Let's put real numbers on it. After income tax, after NI, and after a Plan 2 student loan, that £70,000 salary lands in your account as roughly £3,800 a month. Read that again. A top 15% salary, a number that once bought a detached house and a private education, now delivers around £3,800 to actually live on, and that's before a single bill leaves your account. This is where the cage closes. Because those essentials, the truly non-negotiable British essentials, have not stood still. Picture a modest semi-detached in the home counties. Nothing grand. A normal family home. At a mortgage rate of 5%, that single monthly payment can swallow £1,500 of your take-home pay. £1,500. Gone. from a net figure of 3,800. And you haven't eaten yet. You haven't covered the council tax, the water, the electricity, the childcare, or the weekly shop. You've simply kept a roof over your head, and already almost half of your high income has evaporated. This is the fixed cost cage, and the higher your postcode's expectations, the tighter the bars. Now, if you want to know who feels this most sharply, look at families, because for parents, there's a particularly cruel twist. Call it the success tax. Here's the trap. The government looks at £70,000 and decides you are rich enough to start losing your child benefit. This is the high-income child benefit charge. Once your income climbs past £60,000, the state begins clawing that benefit back. And by £80,000, it's gone entirely. At £70,000, you are standing right in the middle of that squeeze. Now stack it all together, the 40% tax, the national insurance, the student loan, and that benefit being tapered away. For a working parent, the effective marginal rate on the next slice of income can climb beyond 55%. For a household with 2 children, it can push past 60%. Think about what that means. For every extra pound you earn, you might keep less than 40 pence of it. And yet, here's the contradiction that defines modern middle-class Britain. The government looks at £70,000 and says, rich. But the market, the nursery charging for a full-time place, the letting agent, the supermarket, looks at the exact same number and says, middle class. You are taxed like the wealthy and priced like the ordinary, squeezed from both ends at once. There's a second way to picture this, and it explains the exhaustion. Landing a £70,000 job should feel like a soft landing, a gentle touch down onto solid, comfortable ground. But the system straps a weighted parachute to your back, and the moment you try to run forward, the moment you try to save for a bigger house or build a better SIP, that parachute catches the wind of inflation and yanks you backward. You are sprinting, your legs are burning, you are working harder than anyone you know, and you are staying in exactly the same spot on the grass. That's not a feeling, that's mathematics. Your salary is running forward. Inflation and the tax system are pulling back with almost equal force. The exhaustion is real, precisely because the effort is real. It's just not translating into progress, and you feel it most on the quiet mornings. Not during some dramatic financial crisis, but on any ordinary quiet morning in the moment, the direct debit's clear. You glance at the banking app, and you watch it happen in real time. The mortgage leaves, the loan repayment leaves, the tax has already gone. And the number that seemed so large on your contract shrinks to something that...
Food costs more. Rent costs more. Mortgages cost more. Insurance costs more. Petrol costs more. Energy costs more. Even having a bit of fun seems to require a financial advisor these days. And that's what makes this so exhausting. It's not one enormous expense that knocks people over. It's the constant stream of increases coming from every direction, month after month, year after year. You get a pay rise and think you're finally getting somewhere, only to discover that the supermarket, the landlord, the energy company, and the insurance firm have already put their hands out. It's like trying to climb an escalator that's going down. You can work harder and still find yourself standing in exactly the same bloody place. I sometimes wonder whether ordinary people have become so accustomed to rising prices that we've forgotten how extraordinary this actually is. Something becomes more expensive, we complain for 5 minutes, then we carry on. Another increase arrives, we sigh, and carry on. Another bill goes up and we shrug. But eventually you have to ask where the limit is. Because people aren't talking about luxury anymore. They're talking about food, housing, heating, transport, and the basic costs of keeping a household running. And when those things become increasingly difficult to afford, something has to give. The holiday disappears. The meal out disappears. The hobby disappears. The savings disappear. Eventually, people aren't asking, what can I buy? They're asking, what can I afford to live without? That's a bloody depressing question for a supposedly wealthy country. And I'm not suggesting Britain is the only country facing high costs. Plenty of countries are struggling with inflation, housing pressures, and expensive essentials. But that doesn't make it any easier for someone sitting at home in Britain, looking at their bank statement and wondering where the money went. The cost of living isn't simply an economic statistic, it's people's lives. It's whether young people can move out, whether families can afford another child, whether pensioners can heat their homes, whether working people can actually save anything, whether ordinary Britons can occasionally enjoy themselves without feeling guilty about spending the money. So yes, have a laugh at the thumbnail. I certainly did. But once the joke is over, the bloody figures are still there. The cost of living keeps exploding and people are beginning to wonder whether this is simply the new normal. Well, I don't think people should become so accustomed to it that they stop asking questions, because Britain can survive expensive times. We've done that before. But people need some bloody hope that things can eventually get better. Cheerio. And remember, when the cost of living keeps rising like this, the only thing getting more attractive than the thumbnail is the idea of hiding under the duvet and pretending the bills don't exist.